Good morning, everybody from Honolulu and World Tourism Network. This is a live event about to start in about 25 minutes with Visit Britain and the European Tourism Association. Please stay tuned. If you wanted to be part of this live event, you can still do this and go into worldtourismevents.com. We will start in about 25 minutes, 23 minutes, what is 8 a.m. Hawaii time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, or 7 p.m. in London. Just stay tuned. Good morning. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from World Tourism Network in Honolulu, Hawaii. Our meeting with Visit Britain and the European Tour Operator Association will start at 8 a.m. in 22 minutes. Please stay tuned. Or if you wanted to be part of this live event, you can still do so and register. It's free at worldtourismevents.com, worldtourismevents.com. And if you're live, of course, you can ask questions. Otherwise, stay tuned. We'll be starting in about 21 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, everybody from Honolulu. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from World Tourism Network here in Honolulu. We'll be meeting with Visit Britain and the European Tour Operators Tourism Association, in about 20 minutes, 19 minutes from now. Please stay tuned. You can also still join our live event. You find it at worldtourismevents.com, worldtourismevents.com, and then you can be part of this live audience. We'll be having our pre-meeting in about 4 minutes with participants, and then we're going to start with a real meeting in 18 minutes from now. Please stay tuned. Thank you. Good morning again. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from World Tourism Network in Honolulu and ETOA News. We're about to start a very interesting session with Visit Britain and the European Tour Operator Association in about 17 or 16 minutes from now. Please stay tuned. If you wanted to be part of this live event, please go to worldtourismevents.com. It's still time to join, worldtourismevents.com. Otherwise, please stay tuned. We'll be starting in about 16 minutes, and we're going to let our participants in about 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, good morning. I'll make you co-host.
Hi, Jürgen.
Hey, good morning, Gavin. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and yourself?
Oh, I'm fine with trying to survive like everyone else, I guess.
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Okay, I got Tom. I don't know if you can hear us.
I can hear you loud and clear.
How are you? How's everything?
I was wondering what's the problem with my camera, but I can hear you anyway.
Yeah, no, I can hear you fine. We got Gavin already here from Visit Britain.
Yeah, I can see Garen. Hi, Garen.
Hey, how are you, Tom?
You're called Allison on the thing. I hope this is just because that's the person dialing you in rather than, well, I mean, you're perfectly entitled to have an identity change, I suppose. It's the fashion at the moment, but
That's interesting.
The camera seemed to be working a second ago. I don't know what's happening.
I didn't see that. I wonder how I can. Is there a way I can change that, Jürgen?
Well, you would need to register with your own name. Let me see if I can change it from here. Hello.
I can go and try to do that if you.
Well, I think you may have on the right-hand upper side. You see like 3 dots. Can you?
Yeah.
You see those? Maybe it let you change there. I'm not sure.
Let me try that.
I'm wondering whether have I got the camera already engaged with somebody else?
Rename. Here we go. Rename.
Yeah, then you can name yourself whatever you want to be named.
Well, I think I'll just call myself Gavin Landry. How's that? There we go. Thank you, Tom, for pointing that out. You've rescued me already.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. I'm now trying to work out whether I'm. I think I may be registered at Zoom twice here.
Okay.
If I crash out, can you call me back, or let's do that? Leave me.
It's the same link, so don't worry about it. Hope. Okay. That was quick. Okay. Good morning. Dimitri is helping me here in Honolulu. How are you?
Morning to everyone.
Morning. Okay, so we wait for Tom. I think he's coming back in. Okay, here we go. You're with the camera now. We can see you.
Uh-oh, Tom's got a tie on. I better run and go put a tie on.
Always has a tie on.
It's on. This is how I dress in bed. I wouldn't worry, Gavin.
I love it.
That's what I miss in London. People with tie. We don't have that here in Honolulu. You know?
Well, you always say that to me. You understand that? I've seen ties in Honolulu. They exist.
Well, that's good. Okay, so we're going to get live on the social media and on ETN in about 11 minutes. No, 1 minute, I'm sorry. And then we have 10 minutes till we start. And Yeah, it'll be an interesting event, I think. People are looking forward to hear how Europe is doing.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is that Europe's actually doing, it's not doing great. It is, everything's crap, frankly. But I mean, the bits on the continent within Schengen, well, this is not the focus of this discussion, but Schengen's doing okay. You know, I mean, we've got American visitors coming in to Italy, to France, to Greece, to Spain. And we have had them planning to do this since July the 1st. And we really don't have very many people coming to the UK at the moment. And there will be a moment. I mean, the good news is, I think the thing that we need to ramp up is that the visiting friends and relatives market is going to see a real boost from the relaxations that we've heard.
Right.
That's the good news.
I was stunned by that rally in Paris against vaccinations and such, and then putting the Star of David on their chests. I mean, it just seems like it's gone completely bonkers.
Crazy.
That will not do a lot for inbound tourism to France and North America.
When did a vaccine become, so political, such a right or a non-right? I don't know. It's just crazy to me.
I was in Europe, in Germany, actually, in June, I believe it was, after the Arabian travel market. And I have to say, it was depressing. I was there this week when it was complete lockdown in Cologne, and none of the shops were open. Everything was closed. I stayed at the Hyatt Hotel. I think they had 2 or 3 rooms occupied. And it was really kind of a depressing feeling. Luckily, I was there for 2 weeks. The second week, moved to Düsseldorf, and they opened up restaurants for outside seating. And it was like, wow, you're born again. People sitting outside. It was freezing cold, but it didn't make any difference.
Freezing cold for someone that spends time in Honolulu might be a little different.
That's right. That's right. But I was in Hamburg in September, I think it was, last year, and everything looked like it was drifting back to being normal, but we were wrong.
Right.
Short answer.
So we're live now on the social media and on ETN on the front page. But okay, yeah, it's life has changed, definitely, and we have a big outbreak here in Hawaii right now. It's from, we never had these numbers. We're like at 450 a day, and in the worst times we had about 100 some. So
what variant is it? Because it's very important to have the most fashionable variant.
We have the Delta.
No, that's
I love you, Tom. You're the best. No, we've got 21,000 cases in Florida overnight, new cases in Florida. So
I saw that. Florida and Hawaii, I think we're pretty much in a similar boat,
Yeah. So the particularly vulnerable populations that, are not vaccinated are seeing, rapid hospitalization and infection rates.
Is there a low vaccination in Miami? I'd have thought, in Florida, I'd have thought Florida was
Yes. Yeah, you can pretty much look at the political stripe of the state and tell where the vaccination levels will be low. And that doesn't mean that all Republicans are not vaccinated. It just means that, the heart of America, the heartland, and the deep South are more resistant to the vaccination programs.
Okay, I'll let Peter in. Okay. Just for everyone who's joining us on our social media and on ETOA News, we are already live, but our event hasn't started. We're going to start in about 7 minutes, so please stay tuned. And if you still wanted to be part of this live event, you can go to worldtourismevents.com, worldtourismevents.com. You find it right there. Visit Britain and ETOA. Just click on join, and we'll be happy to have you in our live audience as well. Good morning, Peter. How's everything in Texas?
Good morning. I just had a wonderful conversation with Matala, Mexico, so I'll tell you about it later. But nice and warm here as usual, and I see you got a haircut.
That was last week already, so.
Oh, it looks different today.
I'm doing this before everything locks down again. I hope it's not going to happen, but our numbers are pretty good. But I got Tom, Tom from ETOA.
Yes, hi, Tom. How are you?
Gavin, you know,
Driving, thanks, Peter.
Hello, Gavin.
Hi, Peter.
How is life in Britain? Are you in Britain?
I'm not in Britain at the moment, but I am going on Saturday.
Okay, okay.
He's
But
doing
come
what
on.
it says on the tin on Saturday. I'm in Newcastle at the moment, which I'm ashamed to say is one of those cities that I used to take when I used to be a tour guide. I used to take people through. I never stayed in, and it's a very striking city. It's one of the great kind of cityscapes of the UK. And I hadn't
It's a lot
realized.
like Budapest. People don't realize that Budapest is a lot like Newcastle Gateshead, right? Where you have the river dividing the two.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. I think Budapest has one or two smarts in front of Newcastle. Having said that, I mean, Newcastle has a very fine 19th century interior, very similar to Glasgow and Edinburgh. I mean, it's very straight. And it's got an extraordinary topography. It has suffered from disastrous town planning in the last 60 or 70 years. But
I think there are a lot of cities in the world that have suffered through that.
Okay, we're not Talib in.
Hi, Talib.
He's connecting still.
What's the accent in Newcastle, Tom? That's so hard to understand. The really extreme British accent.
it's hardly an extreme British accent, but it's called a Geordie accent, technically.
Geordie, right? Yeah.
And they've enjoyed extensive publicity, certainly in the English bit of the English-speaking world, through a comic magazine which has been selling for the last 20 or 30 years, called Viz, who perpetrate a number of famous Newcastle characters.
Interesting. I have to admit, I was in a cab in Newcastle going to the train station, and the cab driver was talking to me the entire time, and I didn't understand one word he said. I just literally shook my head and said, yes, oh, I tried to do what I could to seem like I was understanding.
I have friends in some of the professional football players in Northern England, and when they speak to me, I think they must think I've terrible. They must think I have terrible hearing because I have to ask them 2 or 3 times. I go, I'm not quite sure I understood that. Could you say that again slowly?
Okay, we got Talib in Jordan. He's joining us.
Hi, Talib.
Talib, how are you?
Hi. How are you?
How are things in Jordan?
Good. They're good. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Hi, Talib, how are you?
Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's very nice to see you as well.
You're in good shape.
Suitably dynamic space, which is good.
There's my fabulous colleague, Allison.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.
Afternoon for us. Allison.
Yeah, afternoon. We're in New York.
Okay, well, definitely afternoon.
Okay, for everybody who's watching us on Facebook and on ETOA News, we're about to go live in about 3 minutes, and you can still join us, actually. If you go to worldtourismevents.com, you can be part of this live audience, and it's going to be an interesting event. We're going to meet Tom Jenkins, CEO of the European Tour Operators Tourism Association. I never know one of the two. And we're going to meet Gavin Landry with Visit Britain. Guess what? Britain is open for tourism. You hear everything
Hi,
about
Gavin.
it. So I have Talib Rifai, former UNWTO Secretary General, joining us from Jordan. And of course, we have Peter Tarlow, my co joining us from Texas. So stay tuned or join us. You get minutes to be part of this live audience. Otherwise, stay tuned and we're going to start soon. Thank you. Okay. So who else we're going to start here? Oh, let our professor in from Serbia. Well, a Professor Snow. She has such a complicated name, and it means Snow White, apparently.
She's the lady from the tour operator.
It means white snow. Is it
Tour
snow
guide.
white or white snow?
Yes. Hi, Professor Snisana. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm going to send this out today. I didn't do it yesterday because of the weekend, so just look for it. We're going to do a questionnaire about she runs our educational group for World Tourism Network, and she put it here together. So we're going to get this out today for you. Okay, so I think we're just 1 minute away.
Hi, Professor. Good to see you again.
Hi. It was nice to see all of you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
I don't see, we have a sponsor actually. I don't see anyone, but
Professor, are you calling from Serbia?
yeah, she's in Serbia, right? Or you're traveling, and you're still in Serbia.
Yes, I'm in Serbia, in Belgrade.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful Belgrade.
Yes, you've been several times to Belgrade.
I've been here several times, yes. Yes.
And that Blanca is going to start. She's the co-host with our Saudi group, but good morning, Blanca.
Good morning, Jürgen. How are you?
Good.
Blanca, how are you?
Um,
Good morning, Blanca.
Good
Good evening.
morning.
How are you?
Hi, Blanca.
Hi, Mr. Rafai. How are you? It's so good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you always. You're looking
And
good.
there's Mr. Tarlo, all these amazing dignitaries today. How's it going?
Well, none of us are as dignitary as you. We're honored to
Yes.
have you with us.
That's right.
You're too wonderful. It's such a pleasure.
He speaks on my behalf as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
We're
Such an
block.
honor.
Talib and we're family.
I love it. I love it. That's how I look at life. That's how I look at all of us. We're all family. And I see Gavin and Tom and Professor, who else? Cynthia, Tricia, Harvey. So nice to see all of you.
Likewise. Thank you.
okay, welcome everybody. You see everybody's joining us now. And if you're watching us online at ETOA News or live stream or Hawaii News Online or wherever you're watching us or social media and you wanted to be part of this audience, you can go to worldtourismevents.com and you can still join. Otherwise, stay tuned. We're going to start momentarily here. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to mute everybody in about 20 seconds.
Okay.
Henry.
And there's our sponsors, Dan Oren in the house with, how are you, Dan?
I'm doing fine. Everybody see me?
We can see you.
Yes.
We can see your team. We see, this is Dan Oren, everyone, and Vladimir, and of course, Shimon. How are you, gentlemen? We're just going to let everybody into the meeting and then we'll introduce you.
Okay, so I'm going to mute everybody and then Blanca will give it to you. And you can...
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Again, anyone watching us on social media or etobernews.com or any of our publications, you can still join us if you wanted to be part of this live audience. Simply go to worldtourismevents.com and join, and you will get an instant access code. Other than that, we're about to start. It's 8:03 in the morning here in beautiful Honolulu, and it is 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 7 p.m. in London and 8 p.m. in the rest of Europe. Like we have Professor Snovana joining us in Serbia. I guess it's 8 in the evening. I don't know what time it is in Nepal, Deepak. Deepak is joining us from Nepal. It must be about midnight or close to midnight. But everyone, welcome to the World Tourism Network event with Visit Britain and the European Tourism Association. We're going to have Gavin Landry. He is the vice president and executive vice president for the Americas for Visit Britain. And we have our friend and tourism hero, Tom Jenkins, joining us from London. And Tom, of course, as you know, we had on many events, is the CEO of the European Tourism Association. But before we start, this time we're very pleased actually to have a sponsor, someone who made this all possible. And I have my co-host for this, Blanca, Greenstein. She's joining us from Florida. Introduce our sponsor and start this event out. Blanca this is her second event with us, and you're going to see more of her. We just finished a very successful meeting Blanca led with our Saudi Arabia interest group. So that was a lot of fun. And now we're going to let Blanca start out with Visit Britain. Good morning or good afternoon, Blanca. Welcome. Please
Good
unmute
afternoon. Thank you for having me, Jürgen. It's such an honor to be a part of the World Tourism Network, and it's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce today's sponsor, Elite Hemp Products. Today, we have with us Dan Oran, the founder of Elite Hemp Products, Shimon Fima, the CEO, and Vladimir Kudiako, the International Relations from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Please unmute yourself.
You're just going to want to click that unmute button in the lower left-hand corner. There we go.
We with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So how are you doing today? How's the weather in Fort Lauderdale today?
It's a beautiful sunny day for us today after a good weekend with the ocean and boating. We're all having fun. South Florida.
I love it. I love it. And I'm lucky because I'm in Boca Raton, Florida, and I'm the director of marketing for Elite Hemp Products. And we get to have lots of meetings together and see each other in person. So I'm really excited to introduce you to the team of Elite Hemp Products. And so, Dan, tell us a little bit about the company. How long have you been in business?
We opened that company in 2016 and November 2016. We are a 5-year-old company. We are in the field of manufacturing, distribute, and exporting CBD products from the US. We have 250 items on our lines, from cosmetics to food to pain reliever to pills, all involved with CBD.
That's absolutely fantastic. So now you have physical stores and you have an online presence. Where are the physical stores currently located?
We are teamed with another company they call Go Green CBD, and we open stores on all over the malls in the United States. Our present right now in the mall, the best mall in the United States, like Ventura Malls in South Florida, Dolphin Mall, we have Pembroke Pines Mall. We have 10 present malls in this moment, and we're planning to open 100 more until 2022.
That is very exciting. And where is the online presence? What is your website for the online?
Our website is elitehempproduct.com. We're selling under our website of the company, but it's many more companies selling our products and their websites.
That is fantastic. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs from all over the world. This is what I love about the World Tourism Network, because it attracts people from literally every country in the world. And I know what everyone's thinking right now is, how can they get involved with your successful company?
So we have two different ways to get involved with us all over the world. If it's in United States retail stores, we have a program to open retail stores in United States. We're looking for distributors all overseas. We have right now distributors in Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and we're looking for other distributors in Europe to represent the line. And we're looking for people to open retail stores in different parts of the world, including the United States. The second way is to be associated with a company and represent the company online in different structures.
That's fantastic. And so if someone becomes an investor and they purchase a store, they can basically have the blueprint of all of the stores that are running successfully right now. Is that right?
All our stores look the same. They're all in the malls right now in America. This is what we did. The second program on the stores we open now with another group, stores and shopping centers. It's going to be a different name on the store. It's going to be called CBD manufacturing. Different type of small stores, 1,000 square foot, and shopping centers. We have affiliated program that we have people from all over getting affiliated with the website of the company, introduce friends and family, and getting percentage from the sales. Because of our relationship with Blanca, we have helping those people to be successful on the internet present with all the support of our company.
Exactly right. And that's the key. Whether you become an investor or whether you become an affiliate, I think what's nice about our collaboration is I handle the marketing side and can support you in that way. Now, turning over to you, Shimon, what's your role in the company?
My role in the company is to bring the best product in a higher quality and to make sure to have all the tools to all our entrepreneur and associate to be successful and make sure to be in the front line of this amazing market.
That is fantastic. So Dan, you've had a lot of success in the 5 years that you've been open. What is your number one secret of success?
Our products, our quality of the products. We are manufacturing top of the line CBD products. Our customers, they are return customers to buy more and more from the product. The way we treat our customer, the way we manufacturing our products is the secrets of to be successful in that field.
And what kind of problems can these types of products, CBD and hemp, solve?
You know, the best research in the world is come up from Israel. In Israel, we are number one in research of CBD in the world, and cannabis as well. And the secrets, each person have different problems. Some of us has pain. Some of us cannot concentrate. Some of us have problem with the hairs grow or losing hairs. We have, for each of those problems, we have a product to fit.
I love it. Now, what is the best way for people to connect with you if they want to become an investor, an affiliate, a distributor? How can we connect with you?
We are a small company. We are talking direct to the people. So I have my phone number is available 24 hours a day, not less than that. Besides Saturday that I don't answer my phone for business, any other day I will answer the phone. I work in between Israel and United States and South America, so my time is I'm available most of the day. My phone number is 786-351-4118, and my email is danoran@aol.com.
Wonderful, and I will put that information in the chat. Dan, Shimon, Vladimir, Elite Hemp Products, thank you so much for being the sponsor today of this wonderful event. We really appreciate your support.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Back to you, Jürgen.
Thank you, Dan. Much appreciated. And actually, we have Dan's link also on World Tourism Network on this event, so you can see it. And we also have it on ETOA News under the sponsor link, so you can easily locate him. But and thank you, Blanca, for the introduction. And I'm very pleased now to get to maybe we can start with Tom to give us an overview, since he is kind of working not only with the UK, but also with the rest of Europe. And then we can go over to Gavin and give us a rundown what is going on in Europe when it comes to inbound tourism, because that's what we're talking about today. Welcome, Tom, and thanks for joining us. You're joining us from Newcastle.
No, I'm joining you from sunny Newcastle. It's a long shot from Fort Lauderdale or Hawaii, I'm afraid. I would just like to commend your sponsors at ETOA. We take our sponsors very, very seriously, and I think they did a wonderful presentation of a novel product, which is a very difficult thing to introduce. So I particularly like to congratulate your sponsors on this occasion. The situation, if you look at Europe as a whole, in a normal year, we would describe the situation as catastrophic. Let's be realistic. We've had a winter that's lasted for 18 months, and all your viewers will be familiar with this. The good news is that Europe put the United States on a white list back on July the 1st. And that enabled American citizens, in broad terms, there are exceptions, but in broad terms, it allowed United States citizens to travel to continental Europe, to the Schengen area in broad terms. And it enabled them to enter without any quarantining, without any self-isolation, and without any compulsory PCR tests upon arrival. This has meant that my members who broadly sell Europe in the United States, they do sell it elsewhere in the world too, but the US is the big market for Europe. It meant that they're now starting to run tours. If you go to any of the big scheduled tour operators, and I'm pleased to say nearly all the big scheduled tour operators are members of mine, they are now running tours in Italy, in Greece, in Spain, etc., and in France. And these are now taking place in August. And it looks like, you know, if the wind stays fair and all the random actions of the gods that are applying themselves to our industry at the moment continue to be reasonably benign, it looks like our high season in Europe will exist. It will not be a hugely successful high season, but there is a lot of pent-up demand, and I'm expecting to see river cruises to cruise, coach tours to go around, and people visiting cities to visit cities. And the good news is that those people doing this will have broadly an unparalleled experience, because they will never be able to experience Europe at high season with this lack of crowds. It's going to be a unique experience. Now, we are here to discuss the UK, and I ought to declare an interest insofar as I am British. My association is based in the UK. It was founded in the UK. And I spent my formative years in the tourism industry as a tour guide in the UK. So I'm attached to this place on many levels. We've had a bad COVID as far as tourism is concerned. I think we can reasonably say. And it's up to Gavin to point out the good news. And there is some good news. I don't want to spoil his patch. There are some real difficulties, though. The good news is that the UK said that it wasn't going to force people into quarantine or self-isolation upon arrival, and they announced this really about 7 days ago. The bad news is that people still have to have compulsory PCR tests, which are both burdensome and expensive. And if you're going to sell a destination, and those of us who've been saying that saying that visas are not a good idea, having having a testing regime, irrespective of the fact if you've been vaccinated, having a testing regime costing upwards of $100 to $150 to $200 that you have to organise even upon arrival in the UK, this is not an attractive proposal for a leisure traveller. Furthermore, they announced this relaxation down to compulsory testing from quarantining in the last week of July. And by that stage, most of the volume tour operators had to cancel their September programs. So the vast majority of the volume that would have been coming from the United States, the United Kingdom, in terms of organized groups, has been largely cancelled. Now, there are going to be people out there putting tours together, and there's much more to discuss than what I've outlined. So there's all sorts of nuances and good news within that. But if people think that somehow, because Boris Johnson declared that people don't have to quarantine, that the curtains have opened and everyone's dancing a joyful dance, that's not the case. It's going to be a very slow dawn, and it's good news if you're wanting to visit friends and relatives with a binding need to go and see people in the UK. Then you're going to be able to do it. You can do it for the cost of the additional cost of a PCR test. But if you're thinking of coming for a vacation, spontaneous vacation, well, there may be more to discuss, but at the moment, that's not really on the cards. Europe is looking much more attractive from that point of view. I've said enough. I'm going to hand over to Gavin.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, let's hear from Gavin, and then maybe we can get some comments from Taleb and Peter before we open up for questions. And I think there's a lot of questions everyone has, and everyone is exciting to see how they can travel to Britain again. Gavin, welcome.
Thank you, Jürgen, and thank you. I'd echo what Tom said about the sponsor. I'm just wondering on his behalf and mine if it helps to regrow hair, because if it does, please sign me up and get me a subscription right away. Jürgen, I'm always pleased to be with you, and even more so when you look around the room as to who's attending today, and it just reminds me of what a global family we really are, and how that is such a powerful force in the world, that the tourism industry can bring us all together on such occasions like today. So just to reintroduce myself, I am Executive Vice President, Director of the Americas for Visit Britain. Visit Britain was formed in 1969 as the British Tourism Authority, and it was quite a prescient move by Britain to establish such an authority. This is long before the likes of Visit Hawaii, Visit California, and others would have been around. It was before the jumbo jet was actually launched in the 70s. And Disney World in Florida wasn't even open yet. So a big move. We do business as Visit Britain. We are still the BTA legislatively. And in my patch in the Americas, we have offices in Sao Paulo, Los Angeles, New York, and Toronto. And Visit Britain Worldwide has 21 offices with a big footprint, of course, in London. So we are very excited. I mean, certainly about the news and the latest announcement. While in some ways there's more to do, this new announcement about inbound tourism from the US and Europe being exempt from quarantine requirements across the UK is a good shot in the arm. In fact, I haven't been in the UK since last March, and I'm going on Saturday myself for work reasons. So there are still some restrictions, as Tom mentioned. Travelers will need to prove their vaccination status and have their proof of residency, of course, their passport, visa, or green card from the US. And then the testing requirements are still in place, but they're fairly light touch. I mean, I tend to agree with Tom in terms of it might be another step, but PCR testing, especially where I am in New York, you can get it, very easily. And then, of course, the second day test is something that has to be accomplished when you're in the UK. And those are the two kind of hurdles that you might have to go over. But then, as was mentioned by Tom in his opening, we really do think this is going to be an interesting and unprecedented time to be a traveler, particularly in the UK. When you think about, the peak season, even I've been in the UK during August, during times when, say, the Fringe Festival was on, or I've gone to the Roman Baths or things like this, and Stonehenge. And now you're going to be seeing really this capacity management approach taken with time testing, time tickets, a lot of organized spacing going around as far as the attractions are concerned. And I think it's really going to be quite cool to be at some of these wonderful locations that otherwise might have been just kind of busting out at the seams. It's not a good thing that they're not busting out at the seams. We're very happy to have as many travelers as want to be with us, but it will be what we're calling a more comfortable form, more managed, comfortable form of tourism that we expect to see.
Thank you very much, Gavin. Now, just a question before we give it to Talib. I'm just curious because we had a situation before COVID that people who are living in the United States on a green card, and there's a visa requirement for whatever citizens they have, they still need to get this visa. Did this change? Because you mentioned green card holder. I'm just curious.
I'll have to refer back to my notes on that. It is in my notes that a green card is eligible, but I'll have to refer back to my team. I've got Allison and Tiffany on the call if either one wants to come in on this, but it's just the status proof, really, the vaccination status proof that we're talking about.
Okay, wonderful. Well, before we open up for questions, let's hear from Talib and from Peter. I wanted to introduce Dr. Talib Rifai. I don't think he needs a lot of introduction. But Dr. Rifai was the Secretary General for the World Tourism Organization for 2 terms. He lives in Jordan. I know he has been to Britain many times. And welcome, Talib. And I'm wondering, what is your feeling? Because Talib has been an advocate, I think, for domestic tourism during this crisis. Now, with Britain opening up to vaccinated travelers from North America, is this a good trend? Welcome, Talib.
Thank you so much. Welcome. I want to welcome Tom and Kevin. really, and welcome UK back into the family. It's good news that we're hearing. I think that the fact that Britain has abandoned its quarantine requirement is a very good thing, because what we had.
Well, I think there goes Taleb. So before let Taleb come back, and then maybe go to Dr. Peter Tarlow. Peter is a co-founder of the World Tourism Network. He's based in Texas. He's also a security expert, having worked with governments and companies all over the world. And welcome, Peter. And Taleb is joining us again. We're going to get back to Taleb in a minute. Welcome, Peter.
Hopefully I'll have less problems than Taleb. Good afternoon to everybody. I also want to say congratulations to Dan Oren and to Blanca for really a great beginning presentation. I want to emphasize and kind of underline what both Tom and Gavin said. I think it's really important that we're starting to get somewhat back to normal. I think Gavin made a really good point when he said this will be a spectacular time to be in a place with a little less crowds. Now, I know from the perspective of the host nation, that's not so great, but from the perspective of the visitor, that's a unique experience. I just came back from Jerusalem, from Israel, and I brought a group of people. We're the only tour group to get into Israel in July, and those people had the most unique experience that you could ever imagine, including they had a private mass at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, something that's unheard of. So those same types of experiences will be taking place in Britain, and that's really great. The one cloud I think that we do have on the horizon is, of course, we don't know what will be with the new Delphi variant. And in security, biosecurity is now becoming key. And that means that we're going to have to figure out ways to help people and help people move on to the next set of variants and get beyond that. Now, in the United States today, Dr. Fauci gave a speech in which he said, expect more pain and suffering. So hopefully he's wrong, and there will be less pain and suffering. I think all of us are jumping out of our skin to get to places like that. And of course, Britain always has a special place in the heart of most Americans because we share a common language. Culturally, we are the children of England. And so therefore there's a commonality for many Americans. Going to England is almost like going to your parents' home and seeing where American history began. So this is going to be a really wonderful experience. Let's just pray that we get as many people vaccinated as possible so that the problem of the unvaccinated and the need to add new regulations can be eliminated. And then I'm one in favor of some form of an international recognition so that we know that we have people know they have been certified, that it will be recognized around the world. I would love to see something placed in people's passports. So when your passport comes up, it would show that you have already been double vaccinated. And we're now looking, of course, at the possibility that there may be a need for a booster shot. But we don't know that yet. So I don't want to jump the gun. But again, Tom and Gavin, congratulations. Let's hope that the rest of this year is better than the first part of the year. We'll all be rooting for you.
Thank you, Peter, and appreciate it. Let's go back to Taleb. We lost him for a second. Taleb, you're on again.
I'm sorry about the connection here. I'm calling from Jordan, and Jordan doesn't have a very good Wi-Fi. But I was going to say that UK, like the rest of Europe, is suffering from the failure of the multilateral system. Now, what's important is not what to have or what not to have. Important is to have one system that governs everybody. The trick is not to make it best on your own for the UK or for any country. You can't have a continent where one country is asking for a quarantine, the other country is asking for a vaccination passport, and the third country is asking for 72 hours PCR. I think the PCR is a good way out, but the PCR must be made affordable and more reachable. So I think it's too expensive now. The PCR is better than vaccination, it's better than quarantine, more guaranteed, more available for everybody. Because to have tourism really work, you have to work from the source market to the place of destination. You need two places. You can't have just one country, each country doing anything on its own. So thank you so much for taking the quarantine off. And as far as PCR is concerned, please try to revisit the cost of PCR. Cost of PCR is too high. It should be as free as vaccine is, or as low as the vaccine is at least. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Talib. And anyone who is ready to ask questions, the easiest is if you raise your hand. You can actually, there's a button on your screen on the right side, I believe, where you can raise your hand. And while you do this, and I know some people are also using the chat room, you can do this as well. But if you raise your hand, we can actually have you live on the event. So before we do this, I wanted to just say hello to Professor Snežana. She's joining us from Belgrade, and she's been frequently on our event. She's also in charge of our high-level interest group in the Balkan region and our educational interest group. And Professor, there's going to be a survey we're sending to WTN members. Tell us just a little bit about the survey, what will be sent out later on today.
We are going to have a survey about education and the training for tourism industry. We want to know what is the most important for the tourist industry, how to prepare people who are working in the tourist industry in the post-COVID period. So we would like to see what is going on in different destinations, different countries, and in different parts of the tourist industry, in the hotel and catering industry, travel agencies and tour operators, rural tourism, for example, nautical tourism, education as abroad. So we would like to see what kind of informal education WTN can work together with the members. That is short about our questionnaire, which we are going to send to all of you. And please take it seriously, because after that we will get many information and then we can work together for education in travel industry in post-COVID period, because so many things changed, so many people changed, many people in the tourism industry lost their job, some new are coming and joining the industry and such things. And because of that, this questionnaire is very, very important to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Snežana. We had Kathy Gregory. She had a question. She put it in the chat, but Kathy, if you like, you wanted to ask your question in person, just show your screen and or just unmute yourself and you can actually ask it.
Okay, thank you. I'm from Los Angeles and I'm a travel agent. I have clients flying on August 11th. They're from the US. They're fully vaccinated. Got a memo today from American Airlines that we do know the quarantine is no longer. But again, I'm hearing about these different shots that need to be taken. One before you go, one when you get there, and one before you return home. I understand the links to that are on the particular airline's webpage of whatever they're flying on. But I just need to clarify, quarantine gone for US citizens fully vaccinated with shots, vaccinations done in the United States of America. Is that correct?
It's not shots, it's PCR tests upon arrival.
So proof of vaccination. So in America, they'll have their CDC card that would have shown the specific dosage that they got with a number that ties back to the CDC. And the date, so they'll need to have that card available. American has something called Verifly, which is another way that you can have them go through the process, and they'll go through their travel experience quicker if they use the American Verifly app. So have them take a look at that. And then yes, the PCR test, which just says that you're not ill before you travel, so 72 hours before you go. And then on day 2, you get another test, PCR test while in the UK, and then that also says that you're not sick. and you basically then have the run of the place. You can go wherever you like. It's really much simpler than, and these aren't shots. This is literally where they just do a swab in your nose, I believe, and then they give you the results within the time period that you need for travel. Hope that helps.
Okay. Yes, that helps.
Gavin, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about Verifly. I understand Verifly is an initiative by some airlines. It's not really all airlines yet. How does someone, what is Verifly about? Maybe you can explain it a little bit.
Well, so Verifly is an app. So they go to the App Store, whatever in the US, Apple Store, whatever you like, and you download the app, and then there's a process by which you upload all your documents into the app. And then this is perceived as acceptable to the TSA, to the airlines, obviously, as proof. And then when you get to the UK, you'll hand over your passport to enter the country. They'll scan that, and then they'll ask you to see your proof of vaccination. The Verifly would serve as that proof of vaccination with those documents all consolidated in that one place. So it takes a little bit of time to set up the app, but it does make your travel experience quicker.
Does that exempt you from the PCR test?
No, it does not. The PCR has to be done before, and you have to do the day 2 test.
Yes.
Now
is there a way you can reduce the cost of the PCR test? It's too expensive in the UK.
Yeah, I think Talib said the PCR test is still quite pricey, and that is definitely, what's the main difference? Maybe Tom actually raised his hand. Tom, why don't you come in? You have to unmute yourself, please. You're muted.
Unmute yourself.
Found it. No worries. So I found the thing. I think the Talib's right. It's expensive. I think the news is at the moment there is an interesting political fight taking place in the UK, whereby the Chancellor of the Exchequer last Friday wrote a letter to the Prime Minister asking for the current requirement for PCR tests to be dropped. That does not mean to say they're going to be dropped, but it's very interesting that the Chancellor wrote a letter to the Prime Minister. Now, that if you live at number 11 Downing Street and your next door neighbour lives at number 10 and he's a work colleague, it's very odd that you write a letter to make this. You only write that letter in order to leak it. It's the only reason why you write a letter in such circumstances.
Yes.
And so it's now become a political game where within the UK, the opposition party, the Labour Party, is haranguing the Conservative administration led by Boris Johnson for being too weak. They feel that the government should be tougher on borders. It's interesting that the opposition is now occurring within government, within the finance area of the Exchequer, saying that Boris Johnson needs to be more liberal. And it's possible that these requirements will change in the next 7 to 10 days. But at the moment, as Ted points out, you've got to have a PCR test. But once you've had that PCR test within the UK, you're pretty free to do what you want. You're not being asked for a vaccine passport when going into restaurants or pubs or theatres or any museums. It's assumed
it's very good.
You're clean, so to speak, when moving around. There is that basic assumption in the UK at the moment. It's not entirely the case on the continent.
Yes.
Robert Kamiti. Robert is with the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife in Kenya, and he had a question on transit travel. And I don't know if Gavin or Tom has the information, but Robert, do you want to mute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity being offered. I'm Robert Kamau Kamiti from Kenya, working with the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. Now, my main concern was issue of traveling, which is attached to the COVID-19. Now, you find that in January this year, US issued a decree which banned travelers to US transiting through one of the European country being barred from entering the country unless one has a special permission from the US government or has a diplomatic visa. But it is contrary now to if one is traveling through one of the Arab countries to US. Now, what you find that this decree by US is actually hurting African. And I was saying that there is need to review that decree because there should be equal treatment. Because when I did my research, I was told that America is viewing the rise of COVID-19 in Europe is going high, and that is why they issued that decree. But when you go to one of these Arab countries, you find COVID is there. So that's why I was suggesting there's need for the decree issued by US to be reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment, Robert. And I'm not sure if Tom or Gavin or Peter or anyone has any comments on this, because it's not really exactly what we're discussing, travel to Britain. But if you do, feel free to respond. Well, it's a comment and it's well taken. Thank you very much. And hopefully it's some of the people who actually have the power to change it can work on this. Now, also Tahira Khan had a question. Tahira, do you want to voice it directly? You can unmute yourself. Okay, so maybe Tahira has a problem with the microphone, but from what I understand, he was asking about vaccine in Asia. Vaccine, what is not Pfizer or Moderna. Is this accepted in Britain if people arrive from Asia? Do you know this, Gavin or Tom?
I'm sorry, I don't. I'd have to refer you to uk.gov on that one. And certainly, wouldn't want to give any wrong advice or advisement here. So sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. We have Deepak.
Sorry, I was going to echo what Gavin said, but the UK government is following closely WHO recommendations, I believe. But do check. Don't rely on us. I think Gavin gave you the perfect response. But the UK government was inordinately unreasonable up until last week in insisting in only recognizing vaccines which had been administered by the UK National Health Service. It's now broadened it out quite considerably, but check what they're saying.
Yeah, and I know we had a discussion not too long ago with San Marino, and San Marino as a country in Europe accepted the Sputnik, while the rest of the European Union did not. So there seems to be still some confusion, and hopefully as we go further, this can be all streamlined a little bit. So hopefully there won't be discrimination against effective vaccines, and who's going to decide if it's effective. So there's a lot of questions, but we have Deepak, and Deepak raising his hand. Deepak was the former CEO of the Nepal Tourism Board, and he actually is in charge of our interest group in Nepal. Deepak, go ahead. The floor is yours. Thanks for attending so late. I know it's after midnight where you are.
Yeah, thank you, Jürgen. Respected Dr. Rifai, Dr. Tarlo, Gavin, Tom, and many other friends. Namaste from Nepal. I have one advice. I have one advice to make and two questions to ask, one to Tom and one to Gavin. Few days ago only, I think 2 or 3 days ago only, I was watching BBC, and we were so happy seeing the European countries are allowing a double dose vaccinated people to travel easily. So very next day, our travel industry was talking like that, that this is a very good news. So I believe one good news in one part of the world encourages and
I think there is a problem with internet in Nepal right now. I see Deepak, but we cannot hear you, Deepak. All right, but maybe we get back to him once you come back. So I cannot, okay.
I do suggest that we all contribute to a good bag of maybe Kenyan coffee for Deepak, as he's always up in the middle of the night to participate. So,
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Well, and anyways, let's go back to Britain and Europe. How is the coordination that between Britain and the rest of and the European Union countries, since Britain is no longer part of the European Union, when it comes to transiting through Britain, staying a few days in Britain, and then go on to another country or the other way around? Is there a coordination? What should people watch out for if they have a plan to visit Britain and maybe another country in Europe?
Gavin, I'll take this. I mean, just be very careful is my point. France has got restrictions on people emerging from the UK going into France because of the very, very high infection rates that are currently running in the UK at the moment. The UK is leading Europe, I believe, in the level of infections it's got. In its defense, it's also leading Europe in the number of tests it's doing. So that may just be a result of the number of how hard it's looking. I would stress that transiting in Europe is still fraught with difficulty if you're trying to come into or out of the Schengen area. At the moment, the UK, for reasons which are lost to everybody really, has placed France on an Amber Plus list, which means that if you transit through France, say you were coming from Belgium, going through a fraction of France to the Calais port, you would still be expected to quarantine upon arrival in the UK. So there are all sorts of problems out there for moving around from the UK into Europe and from Europe into the UK. You just have to be very careful and do your research. If you go onto our, it's not here to advertise ETOA, but on our website, we've got an extensive spreadsheet where you can go and look at what all the different requirements and recommendations are from the different national tourist offices. Or indeed, you could go to the national tourist offices and see what they're saying at the moment. That's what I recommend. Be cautious about international travel, even at the moment. Sorry, Gavin, you may wish to say something.
No, I mean, I think you've hit it right on the head there, Tom, and you're much more expert at this than I am. I'll selfishly tell you that there's never been a better time to stay within the UK. There's so much to see and do. Why bother transiting on to other parts of Europe? That we could, Wales, Scotland, England, Northern Ireland. There's always something to offer there. So let's take this opportunity. The other thing that I wanted just to posit, and this is sort of going off topic at a moment, but just so we don't run out of time, for the travel advisors and those on this call, what we don't know yet is how consumer behavior will change given traditional seasonality patterns. So what we don't know is whether, because people have been on ice for a year and a half now, whether the idea of traveling during traditional peak seasons will change. Some may decide that I've been not able to travel for so long that I'm going to actually travel in September, October, November, December, January, whenever it may be, that would have been our shoulder or even our low season in the past. We don't know how that will be impacted yet. We suspect that there is such pent-up demand. And at the moment, demand is outstripping supply. So, there's a lot of pent-up demand to go see both friends and relatives, but also just to have that experience of being, out of your house and out of your locale and going somewhere else to have a different change of scenery. We're hoping that will extend the season, so to speak, and be an opportunity for any of the travel advisors that may be on this call with their clients.
And Gavin, how is the situation now? Now, Britain just opened today, so it's brand new. But are the regular sites in London, like the Tower of London and the museums, is this all open, or is it just going to open?
There's been a phased reopening that's been happening for months now, and in fact, the attractions community is open and ready for business. As I said, some measures are in place regarding capacity management. Some social distancing may still be in place, which frankly is maybe not a bad thing. Again, enhancing the experience. But all the attractions are open, ready, and waiting. They've been basically open to domestic first, So therefore, the domestic travelers, those that are within the UK, can travel within the UK, go to restaurants, go to attractions as they would have in the past. And now that the international borders have been open for inbound, we just get to capitalize on the fact that the phasing has happened before this time. So it isn't as if these two announcements are in tandem. The attractions have been open for quite some time. Am I right with that, Tom?
Yeah, you're quite right. I think the places like the National Gallery, the British Museum, they're open. You really ought to try and pre-book before going. Now you can't walk up and know you're going to get in, because there are restrictions on numbers, but they're still free, and you can just choose to, you just have to pick a time. And if you're picking a time which is not on a Friday evening or a weekend when the rest of the UK, which can't go to Magaluf on holiday and has chosen to go to the British Museum instead, if you can pick a time when the rest of the population isn't going, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday during the day, you're going to find it very easy to get in. So no, these are all open, and the theatres are starting to open, and the shops are all open, and the restaurants are open, and the pubs are open. Things are open. I mean, let's be realistic. They're opening up after having been in hibernation for 12 months. So what you're getting is unique. It's different. It's not necessarily bad. It just, there are one or two elements of it which you might find challenging, I think. No, not in a bad way. It's just that restaurants are struggling to find staff, and various other natural aspects of the service economy, which is occurring globally. I know this is occurring in the United States as well. So it's a unique experience going to the UK at the moment, but it's happening. And for those of you, look, I'm in Newcastle at the moment. I'm enjoying myself. So I can't be anything other than an advocate for regional UK. But you may find it easier to sell Paris than Newcastle. I mean, and if you are, you're a travel professional, do so, but just look carefully at the conditions, because these are complicated and they are changing all the time.
Thank you. Before we get go ahead, Peter.
I think one of the prior to COVID, one of the big problems was that we tried often in tourism to do too much in too little time. And I think that Gavin's suggestion, if you're going to the UK, go to the UK. See it, but this is a wonderful time, rather than having, if it's Monday, it must be London. If it's Tuesday, it must be Brussels. This is a great way to actually see one country well and to begin to really know about it. And I say that not only about the UK, but about every single country in the world. We have often rushed so quickly through the world of tourism that we see so much, we see nothing. And I want to really support what Gavin said, that if you could easily spend 2 or 3 weeks in the UK and just touch the surface. So if you're going to do that, don't just rush and say, okay, the UK, that's all my bucket list. I saw 2 things and I'm gone. This is a wonderful time not to be stuck, and maybe those regulations are to our advantages. I was, as I said, just last week in Israel, and we accomplished working 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. We accomplished Jerusalem, and we still had another 2 weeks to see just in one city. So if you're thinking of the UK, you have more than enough time to go to the UK, go see it, enjoy it, and really get to know that one country well. That's a wonderful experience. So Gavin, I hardly agree with you.
Now, when you get to Britain, before we go back to Deepak, I see Deepak has joined us again. What about the tube? I love to travel on the tube. Is that okay, or is it restricted, or?
There's no restrictions on the tube.
No restrictions on the tube.
No.
So there's
nor on the buses, except you are expected to wear a face covering.
All right. That's good news. So, anyways, Deepak,
and what Peter raises is a very, very interesting point. And I can hardly, phrased in the way that he's phrased it, I can hardly disagree. But I would say that there are strong arguments for having an intensely rich and quick experience as well. But this is for a separate discussion beyond COVID. But I'd love to have that debate.
But Tom, can you go out now after you're done with this event and have a beer in the pub, or?
That's exactly what I'm intending to do, I have to say. Thank you for reminding me.
Good.
I think there's a P.G. Woodhouse phrase says that my left foot is pouring for a brass rail, which is a very obscure English reference, but I leave that one with you.
All right, that's all good news. Deepak, go ahead. You disappeared here for a second. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Jürgen, again. Sorry, I was disconnected because of heavy rain. We have some internet problem here. One suggestion that I would like to make was, like, the whatever some policies or practices being implemented in countries like UK, USA, that helps us to set a kind of standard in our countries also. So my humble request to especially the people who make policies and practices in those countries, while developing and devising such practices and policies, please do consider how global tourism can get benefit out of such practices. So that will help the whole other countries also. And second thing is, we all are hoping that, that together with WTM, opening up with WTM, will be ready to reconnect and restart our tourism. So how much we can be hopeful that WTM will be physical or hybrid or virtual model? Is there any idea, Tom? This question is to the Tom. And second is, these countries, UK, USA, European countries, are not only the biggest inbound markets, but also the major source market for many other countries, the biggest outbound traveling. So how is the outbound traveling mindset in these countries? For example, in Nepal, we have vaccinated all the frontline workers in tourism industry, almost everybody. And then we are thinking to open up our tourism, like, identifying safer tourism corridors. For example, V2V, vaccinated guest, vaccinated host. So is there a possibility to open up in that model, that kind of tourism? Second question is this. And third question is, many countries, while opening up their destinations, they are also setting a kind of bar, like allowing this set of vaccinated passengers are allowed, or this set of vaccinated passengers are not allowed. So how we can make a kind of common policy so that we can say, like, these 5 are allowed or these 10 are allowed. So just these 3 questions, if we can get some answers or discussions or food for thought. Thank you.
And yeah, you had your question to Tom and Gavin, and
yeah,
I can, before maybe the answer, I can tell you from my experience living in Hawaii, what is a major tourism destination. We breathe tourism. That's pretty much the only business besides military we have here in our state, and our tourism is booming. Unfortunately, so are COVID numbers right now. But they haven't been that bad. I mean, people luckily are not dying and not getting seriously sick because we have a high vaccination rate. But I can tell you, it's hard to find a hotel and it's hard to find an airline seat in Hawaii, and we're only open to domestic tourism. So I can see the same boom very likely to happen to a destination like the UK. But to your question, that maybe Gavin or Tom, if you wanted to add to it.
Well, I mean, you asked me about World Travel Market. I think
it was going to WTN, that's us, World Tourism Network.
Was he talking about WTM or WTN?
WTN, it's hard. We're a network, we're not a market, but I guess both are important.
WTM, World Travel Market in November.
Oh, World Travel Market, okay, yeah. Both. Okay. So
I think he was talking, I mean, when people say
WTN.
Jürgen, I really ought to be in a zone where someone says WTM and I assume it's a mispronunciation, I have to say. But no, I think the short answer is we think it's going ahead. We've got to stand there. Our biggest event of the year, which is something called GEM, which is the Global European Marketplace, which takes place on the Friday before World Travel Market. We are having that in person. It's going to be our first in-person event. And we're doing it because we genuinely believe that tourism is a a person-to-person experience. It's a real experience. It's not a virtual experience. And my members do not sell virtual experiences. They sell the real deal, and they really need to meet and network in person. So I think it will be happening. I hope that it's not going to be happening on the way that World Travel Market are currently having to sell it. And they're having to sell it as a fully socially distanced event. This is going to be very difficult to deliver if that happens. I think it will. The situation will have changed by November, and I think we will find the World Travel Market will take place. It will not look as it did in 2019, but some form of event will happen.
Hope so.
The only other thing I would say is that you, Deepak, as ever, was a voice of clear reason and sense, good sense. This is wholly lacking from government attitudes towards tourism at the moment. Tourism is an ultra low priority business for Western governments. They are in a desperate situation, to give them some credit. They are in a desperate situation. And when you're in a desperate situation, you do anything to look as though you're doing something. And the something that they're doing is appealing to an audience where 67, 68% of all Western countries have got populations that think that their borders should be closed. And in such an environment, governments tend to play to the audience in that area, and you're not getting sensible reactions. It's the exception rather than the rule. The good news is that gradually, we're getting a situation which looks as though we might have an inbound tourism industry in the UK sometime in September. We're slowly getting one in Europe in August. I think this will start occurring now. As for outbound tourism, you asked me what is the demand. I think there is going to be huge demand for places like Nepal the moment people are allowed to go and come back again. The moment that happens, then I think you will see visitors come back. But until that can happen, it's really in the fate of what COVID does and how the politicians choose to react to it. And I have got no idea what the outcome of those two factors are. I will hand you over to Gavin as ever to give some wise words to cap what I've just said.
Well, I'm not sure I could be any more wise than you, Tom, because you're quite wise. But I think I just add to it in terms of some of the things that have been positive that the industry has taken on, which is a lot of this contactless experiences, seamless abilities to go through a variety of experiences where that will remain in place. And then when it comes to the meetings business, we're going to be attending in IMEX America, which is International Meeting Exchange in Las Vegas in November. That'll be an in-person event. That'll be the first of its type on an international stage. Very important. We'll be attending as England, but we do have folks from Wales that will be attending with us, as well as Scotland. And we will be, talking about the future when it comes to the meetings business, which is another form of recovery for our industry. There is a component that will be in real life and in real time. So what we're doing right now is in real time. We're not with each other. We'd probably rather be with each other in real life if we could. But meetings will take on that component as well. So there will always be, from this point forward, it's thought anyway, some hybrid components, because you can actually extend your reach. So there's an opportunity there for associations and incentive, business to grow their reach in terms of how they go to their membership, and conduct education, conduct training, conduct awards and all that kind of stuff that they do in the meetings that take place where there's a physical component. So I think that Deepak, you brought up a really good kind of line of thinking, and I like your concept about V2B, which is something that I hadn't heard before you just said that. So I think that is a really interesting concept relative to vaccinated to vaccinated, and that being part of a business model down the road. Remember that the flu in 1918 that killed so many people, we're still being vaccinated for that today. That's called influenza A that we get vaccinated for. So any of us that think that COVID is just going to be in the rearview mirror and there will be a time when it just isn't part of our life to deal with, are probably not remembering that history. So we have to learn how we're going to function and coexist going forward as an industry with something that will have to be dealt with and manage for years to come. But we can do this. We're resilient. We're not only humans that are very resilient, but the tourism industry itself is an incredibly resilient industry. And I have good faith that that'll happen.
Gavin, thank you very much. Maybe one question before we go to a question from Kathy Gregory is from the US flying to Britain. Of course, everyone knows we can fly into London. Are there other airports you can fly into from the United States if you want to see something different than London?
The answer is yes, that the other airports such as Manchester, Gatwick, and others have direct flights. And in fact, Aer Lingus is offering flights later this month that they've not offered in the past. We've got flights coming into Manchester Airport, which has just opened up their new terminal. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Tom, but they have got their brand new terminal open at Manchester Airport. Beautiful, a massive investment made by Manchester. And of course, Gatwick is available as well on different flight schedules. So I would just advise you to check your carriers very closely. You know, there are some carriers you might not think of, such as Iceland Air or Singapore Air, Finnair, that fly into London direct or into the UK direct, as well as the legacy carriers that you might always think about, you know, the American, Delta, United, and what have you. But there's lots of opportunities to come into different places, and including obviously Edinburgh in Scotland.
This is Kathy Gregory's question. Since the US still has the UK on level 4 do not travel list, do you fear that US tourists will be going to England this month in August? Do you think this level 4 certification or level 4 would maybe change with now tourism opening up to the UK?
I think, obviously what I think Tom and I agree is that if you want to visit friends and relatives, that's a very compelling thing that you'll want to do. And you haven't seen people for a certain period of time, and you're willing to go through the extra couple steps that you need to in order to see your friends and relatives. So we think that is going to be a part of this book of business for August and September. At least I do. And I think that for business travel, as I said, I'm traveling this weekend on Saturday for business purposes to the UK. It's as early as I would have ever thought I was traveling, but I'm really glad to hear that the announcement has allowed me to do this. So one can only surmise what will happen in that space. I know that there are organizations like the US Travel Association and others that are really pushing very hard for considerations on both sides of the pond relative to the corridor and the transatlantic corridor being as easily managed as possible. So, of course, I work for the British government. I work for Her Majesty's government. Tom has a membership association. He doesn't control what the US government does, but we know that there are lots of talks happening and that things could change, from today until tomorrow relative to the CDC advisement and other things that are in place.
Thank you very much. And we're now like 6 or 7 minutes over our time slot, but let's give Taleb the opportunity. You raised your hand and you disappeared for a minute, but now you're back. So as we have you, Taleb, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm very encouraged by what I'm hearing. I know Tom is always conservative in this, but Gavin and Tom, you're both providing us with a very good picture. I want to add my voice to that of Deepak in saying that what the UK does or doesn't do affects all of us, not just in the US.
No, I think we got
that are waiting to come to UK. They were not allowed before, and I agree that we need to spend more time in the UK if we want to come to the UK. I have a daughter that works in the UK. She came to Jordan, she traveled back. I'm going to go see her. I already had a visa here from the embassy, which is a good thing. Now, having said this, my question is the following. You're insisting on a PCR, which is good. I think it's the best thing. But please, can you think to reducing the cost of this PCR? It's a very important question to answer. Thank you.
So what?
Sorry, Taleb, it's not in my powers to reduce the cost of a PCR. I think the good news is that it's getting much more competitive. we've just got to get the governments to increase the competition and ensure that the competition drives the cost down. You can get PCR tests, I believe, for between $49 and £49. And we've just got to make sure that they're available and that people can access them and that they can be delivered in a timely fashion. But I mean, there is competition taking place, and I think it's the only way it can be driven down. Or the government should subsidize them over the other option.
Exactly.
Moment,
exactly.
Government,
and I think insisting on a PCR.
Look, the government doesn't subsidize
It's better than
anything.
insisting on a vaccine.
Sorry, we're talking across each other, Taleb. But I'm just saying the UK government, very few governments will subsidize anything at the moment when it comes to foreigners coming into their country, when the majority of the population think that foreigners shouldn't be coming into the country. It's just not going to work. What you're saying is 100% correct. It's wholly heartfelt. I don't disagree with it, other than on a practical level. It's not going to politically wash. I mean, Gavin can try and talk to government and say, you've got to subsidize this. I can plead to government and say they've got to subsidize this. I know what the answer is. They're going to be saying we shouldn't even be allowing these guys in, period. That's going to be the reaction. And I'm afraid it's stupid, it's ignorant, it's xenophobic, it's everything I detest and stand against. But that's the answer I'm going to get.
Maybe I can add something to it. When this test, as far as I understand, is available to American travelers coming to the UK, you need a PCR test. Now, out of my own experience with this test, we still needed to come to Hawaii. Now we let vaccinated passengers in. But with this test, I prepaid a test, what was $160, what was expensive. That's what Long Strugs was charging when you make an appointment. But there's a way around it. And most people in the United States have insurance. So for instance, if you're on the Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance plan, what I think covers the majority of all health insurances, don't worry about paying for it. Just show your insurance card and it's covered. Many people don't know this, and just maybe a piece of advice: if you travel to the UK, if you travel to Hawaii, just check with your insurance or just ask to bill your insurance. And I've seen this working, but they're not going to tell you this in advance. You have to ask for it. But in any case,
PCR test and it was free.
Yes, this way it's free. We're coming to the end of our event. I don't see anyone raising hand. I wanted to give the last word to Blanca. She has something else to announce. But before we get there, maybe just some last comments from the three of you. Maybe we can start with Tom, Gavin, and then Peter before we close it and give the word to Blanca.
Just to respond again to the excellent point made by Taleb, the ideal, really in the real world, we've got tourism professionals here listening in. And if you want to make a sale, you might find it a lot easier to sell London and Paris than London and Stratford. And a homily on the virtues of an intense cultural experience as opposed to a quick tourism one may not work if you want to close that sale. And these guys live in the real world, not in an ideal world. I think to give some last words, one, the UK is opening up. I think it will become more open as the weeks roll by. I think we're going to get more welcome statements coming in. And
that's very good.
We should be optimistic, but if you're looking for a high season bonanza in the UK in September this year, you're not going to see very much of one.
Thank you very much, Tom, and thanks for your participation. I know you're ready for that beer, so let's go to Gavin.
Well, my final words, I'll start where I began, just that I'm so impressed with the variety of folks we have on this call from around the world, and we are one big global family. I'm convinced that I would just say that, want to give people something to look forward to as well. There are 3 major events in Britain next year that we're targeting. They're kind of set pieces, as we call them. So the Commonwealth Games will be coming to Birmingham. That we did a 1 year to go event just recently. Markets like Canada and Australia and India are our target markets for our Commonwealth Games promotion. But that's happening next year. There's also something called the Great Britain Festival, which is a year-long festival that's going to be taking place. With all kinds of really neat singular events that are going to happen under the umbrella of the Great Britain Festival. And then lastly, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee is next year as well, which is obviously very significant event, one that we're going to celebrate quite a bit. And you can take in lots of sights and sounds and attractions that happen as a result of those 3 set pieces. So something to look forward to. Certainly, I do think that there's time left this year to jump on a plane and experience Britain in a way you might not have experienced it before. Those that are intrepid, and Americans particularly are quite intrepid. We're not the smartest group, but we are intrepid. So I think that's a really important thing to do if you just want to get away and enjoy time. And I wish personally that I was in Newcastle so I could join Tom for a beer right now, but I hope to do that sometime in the near future.
Thank you very much, Gavin. And you mentioned IMEX before. I just wanted to let everyone know IMEX actually joined World Tourism Network. We're very happy to have them on board and as a partner. My own company, ETOA News, we have partnered with IMEX ever since Ray Bloom started this event many years ago. And we're going to be in Las Vegas as well. We're going to be exhibiting at IMEX. And Gavin, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person there, hopefully. And that's going to be probably one of the most important IMEXs, if not the important IMEX event, I think, because tourism is slowly opening up. And this is where the message is. We're also partnering with the World with WTM in London. So we're really looking forward being in London again. And Reed is also one of our members. So we're been working with them at the Arabian travel market in Dubai, and we're looking forward also working with them in London. Now, Peter,
yes,
you have
sir.
one of the last words here.
Yes, okay. I'll make it quick, but I want to first of all congratulate both Tom and Gavin. Congratulations to the British people on opening up at least a little bit. Please give our best regards to the Queen. Tell her that we'd all love to come and have tea with her, but she may be busy, so I understand that. But on a more serious note, I think that this whole discussion is partly about Britain, but it's really partly about the whole world. And the fact that we are going to need to figure out ways to deal with COVID. It's not going to go away. Viruses do not die. They may mutate, they may change, but just like we've had to deal with the flu on a regular basis, we're going to have to learn to deal with COVID and not freak out each time there's a variation. What we do need to do, though, is learn to work together, create international documentation that can be seen across borders, and where we learn, most importantly, to trust each other. Because part of the problem right now with international travel is one country or one population does not trust another. And when we, as a tourism industry, are able to create both credibility and trust, I think we will go a long way in creating a more viable tourism industry for the next decade rather than focusing on the last decade. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Peter. And before I give it to Blanca, I wanted to again say also a special thank you to Taleb, who has been really being a model for the development of the World Tourism Network. And he joined us again, so I don't know, his connection wasn't that great. But Taleb, if you wanted to say anything to close this event before I give it to Blanca, go ahead.
Thank you so much. No, I just want to say congratulations. Jürgen, you've done a great job here. Tom and Kevin have really represented the UK very well. UK is very important to all of us, as I said and as Peter and Deepak said. So please keep up the good work. Let's work together as governments. We have to push our governments to work together and to give tourism a priority. We have to do that. It's the responsibility of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone. Gavin, Tom specifically, for joining us and staying with us for more than 20 minutes more than what I told you it would take. It's really appreciated. And thank you, Blanca, for coming in. And Blanca, you're such a good moderator. I really enjoyed when you were leading our Saudi Arabia event last week. So I want to give you
Yes.
word because you also have an announcement we're looking forward. Aloha from my part of the world. Good evening, good morning to everyone else. And let's Blanca close the show here. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Jürgen. It is such an honor to co-host with you and just be a part of this amazing group of individuals, and really inspired by the talk of Gavin and Tom. And it's always a pleasure to see Dr. Tarlow and Mr. Rafai. And what I want to announce is that tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern is the Laws of Life International Networking Summit. I've been hosting this summit every Tuesday for the last 19 months on Zoom. And it's a two-part event from 11 to 12:15. We'll be networking. So I personally invite all of you to join and come and introduce yourself. We'll break into breakout rooms. Then from 12:15 to 12:45, our guest of honor of the day is Jürgen Steinmetz. So I'm very excited to interview Jürgen and let him be in the spotlight tomorrow as the guest. And we're going to learn about WTN and all the initiatives of Jürgen and what he's doing to bring us all together. And there'll be Q&A also for Jürgen. So it's a great opportunity to hold the space for Jürgen, elevate him, learn about his incredible platform, the World Tourism Network. So thank you so much. And I put the Zoom link in the chat. Feel free to register. Feel free to bring dozens of friends. It's an open event and it's complimentary. And thanks for letting me co-host with you today, Jürgen. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, Blanca. We're going to put it on worldtourismevents.com. Send me the links. I'd be happy to put it up in the next 30 minutes. So you can also register for this one. Again, thank you for everyone joining us today. And if you wanted to listen to the archive, it'll be up and running on ETOA News for the next 24 hours, just back to back. Just go to our website, read any article you want, and you see us on top with this event. You can tune in. After this, it'll be archived on livestream.travel and our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, just click on subscribe, and you will be notified when there are new events coming up, and they're every day. So we have been quite busy when it comes to discussions, panel discussions, our daily news update I'm doing with Peter. So exciting times. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you can easily go, if you go to WTN.travel, click on past events, or on ETOA News and click on the YouTube link. You can subscribe and you can listen and watch anything we have done over the last year or so since we started going more into visual events. Also, every article actually you read on ETOA News is converted into a podcast. You see it on 16 different podcast channels. And then finally, it converts into a video you also find on YouTube. So if you don't have the time to read us, you can listen to us or you can watch us. With this,
before you say goodbye, Thomas, we need to remind everyone that we'd love you all to become members of the World Tourism Network.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really essential. And in order for us to be able to promote these types of wonderful conferences, we need your support. And I'm hoping that lots of people from Britain and lots of people from Europe will also become members of the World Tourism Network, because it's a World Tourism Network. And that means we need people from every country all around the world. It's very inexpensive. And by doing that, it permits us to be able to bring you the type of programming that I think is so valuable. So please consider becoming a member. You can find that at WTN.travel.
WTN.travel, not org.
WTN.travel. That's my fault. I apologize. But please go to WTN.travel and become a member.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. And actually, we just added the 128.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
With Tajikistan, someone in Tajikistan joining us. So we now have members in 128 countries. So we're quite international and quite excited about this. Anyways, again, good evening, good morning, good night. Aloha from here. And hopefully we see you again soon. And watch out for our survey. Professor Snesvana will be sending out later today. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tom. Enjoy Newcastle, Tom and Griffin.